Welcome back to another episode of the Boys in Motion podcast. We're your hosts, Brian, Andrew, and Tyler. Today, we're diving into everything that you need to know about running the historic Around the Bay race in Hamilton. Whether you're a first timer or a seasoned participant at the race, this guide will ensure you're prepared for every step of the journey.
Around the Bay is one of the oldest road races in North America and comes with its own set of challenges and highlights. From the notorious rolling hills and the cold, windy conditions, this race is as memorable as it is demanding.
But as you know, it's not just about the running. There's the logistics, the cheering sections, and of course, the post race celebrations. Let's break this down so you could crush your full day on and off the course.
Yeah, super excited to dive into this episode. This is a race that a ton of BIM athletes are attending. For those of you who aren't aware, you should mark it in your calendars. The race date is March 30th, 2025, and already it's a sold out event. The 30K, the Hammer Hybrid, and the 15K race are all sold out. I think there's a few other events that you can register for. Maybe it's just the 10K and the 5K. So this is something that a lot of people are anticipating to be a big event, and we're very excited for it.
Absolutely. And just remember that for those that are running, the 30K, the 15K, and the 10K start time has been set to 9:45. And just recently they announced that the 5K start time is at 8:30. So make sure you're where you need to be on time. You got those running shoes double knotted and you're ready to blast off from that start line. This week, we're going to kick off the episode with something a little different, and that's some fun facts about the Around the Bay race. And I'll kick this one off. And this one is related to one of my favorite marathons and just a huge memorable thing for me, which is the Boston Marathon. And actually, the Around the Bay race is actually the oldest long distance road race in North America, 3 years older than the Boston Marathon. So it has that going for it. It takes that notch off the Boston Marathon's belt, with the first race being held on Christmas Day in 1894. That is absolutely wild.
I just can't believe it. Like, what were they running in back in the day? And imagine how brutal their winters were as well. That, there's something about this race being, it's not at the peak of winter, but you're training all winter. So it feels like a peak winter race that makes this a little bit extra special and a little bit harder to train for as well. I'm absolutely here for it.
Maybe they were running in boots. Who knows? We should try to find some clips of the old time racing. That's crazy.
There is, for those that are interested in learning a little bit more about the history of the race, if you head over to bayrace.com and go to race info Bay race history, there's a whole write up with some pretty cool pictures of some of the old runners and the race day photos. It's a pretty interesting read and some good pictures.
Yeah, super cool. So out of the three of us, I think I'm the only one who has run the Around the Bay race. And it's an interesting race because it's a 30-kilometer race. Now, that means it's shorter than a marathon, but substantial enough and a step above the half marathon. So it creates some challenges. But there have been some incredibly fast times at this race. And so some of the records that exist for this race, so we'll just go through them. The first is the men's record. It was set back in 2010 by Aline Reta, something like that. Anyways, a 1:32:22 time. Now, for this specifically, I was blown away because this is like nearly twice as fast as when I did it. But he ran that at a 3 minute and 4.7 second pace, which is absolutely blistering because that's sub 5 minute mile pace for the entire thing. So just incredible. It shows the speed that you can get at this event. Andrew,
Yeah,
are you looking to break that?
maybe this year I'm just gonna go to get the course secret since I haven't done it before, and then maybe next year I'll attempt to break that record. But I have looked at past years. I've looked at kind of the last like 3 years or so of the Around the Bay race, and it's a pretty deep field and quite competitive. The front runners are always super quick.
I think too, based on the weather, we could get some fast times, so that should be interesting. The nice and cool weather keeps your heart rate nice and low, and you could start booking it if there's not too much snow on the ground.
Yeah, that's something I'm spooked about as well. Is yeah, the conditions could just be awful and add so much more. We'll call it fun to the day, but definitely more chaos given, yeah, some freezing rain and snow. So the women's time, another incredibly fast time, it was set in 2013 by Lanny Marchand, and she did it in 1 hour and 44 minutes and 40 seconds, which translates to a 3 minute 29 pace per kilometer, or a 5:36 mile for the entire 30K event. So again, blistering fast.
That is absolutely nuts. The women's racing is also just getting so much faster these days. I'll never get anywhere close to that. Another fun fact, and still on the same topic of women, the race was closed to women for 85 years until Tursila Comac unofficially ran it in 1975. Then they were, I guess, officially allowed to race in 1979. So a little bit of a protest start there probably in 75, and then after they said, you know what? Get them all involved. We get everyone in here. No discriminations. So that's great. I like to see it. And now they're breaking records.
Yeah, and I was reading in the history section, when she registered, she just registered as T Comac, and that's how she was like allowed in. But then when they realized, yeah, but then it was changed after. The history of the Boston Marathon is actually very similar to that. So it seems like they were pretty close step in a lot of things as far as when they started, and like first women and all that.
I was gonna say, I
Um,
just remember that picture, of them trying to rip that girl off of the lady off of the race course. I think that was at the Boston Marathon, so it's probably very similar to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, exactly. That's an iconic picture. Love it.
Oh, for sure.
It's
And
crazy.
what's more amazing, we don't need to go too far down this rabbit hole, but we're talking 1975. Like that's less than 50 years ago. So it's just amazing how far the sport has come. Now we're called Boys in Motion, but I'm glad we got some girls in motion in the crew as well.
And last up for our fun facts about Around the Bay is the unique finishes that this race has historically had. And it has changed over the years. I'd say the most iconic and the one that was long standing was since 2006. It ended indoors at the first Ontario Centre, creating an electric finish line atmosphere where you actually ran inside into the first Ontario Centre, which I've heard some mixed things about it. Some people like that kind of finish, but I've also heard some people where you ran into the first Ontario and it just got like super hot and stuffy because you had just been in these like freezing temperatures, and then your body kind of did like weird things as you finished, and it just kind of became stuffy, and just kind of like the sweat started coming on. In 2024, the race marked its 130th anniversary and switched the finish line to Tim Horton Field for the first time. And then again, this year for the 2025 edition, it will be at the Leuna station, and it will be buzzing with peeps. And let me tell you, there will be lots of BIM folks around as well this year.
Yeah, just to throw back, because when I raced this race a few years ago, it was still the indoor finish at First Ontario Centre, and I found it disorientating because you're right, you're at the total wits end, total bonk zone. That was the first like real running race I did, and coming into the center, I didn't know which way was up. It was kind of wild, and yeah, it it set the standard of what a race finish should feel like for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's super disorienting, just like getting into a building and still trying to push at the end. You're just like, what the heck is going on? So maybe that's probably a big reason why they switched it. And I would imagine this will still be fired up, full of people, friends, family, and fellow BIM athletes. So it's going to be pretty fun having a massive crew out there.
Totally. Okay, so let's move on to some of the meat of this episode, which is actually the course overview. For people who have ran it or people who have not ran it before, this is essential. This is kind of your breakdown guide of exactly what you're going to experience on the day, what those miles will look like. And I think for most of this, we're going to talk in terms of kilometers. So we'll walk you through each of the key segments of the race and then also dive into some logistics around race day. And for this, we'll whip up a little image of the course plan and elevation as well, so that we can refer to it in video as well. So if you're listening just on audio, it might be worth switching over to the video format.
Yeah. So essentially, at least for the 10, 15, and 30K, it is a loop. And if you're doing the 15K, you start at the 15K mark. And then the 10K, you start at the 10K from the finish mark, and you will get shuttled to those points. And then the 30K runners start at Layuna Station, do the around the bay loop, and finish at Layuna Station once again. So that is kind of the general overview. The 5K is still a bit of a question mark. They haven't released that course map yet, so we might have to add some details to that once it does come out.
Yeah, wonderful. So diving into the race course itself, I think the key feature here is that Around the Bay is around the entire Hamilton Bay or Hamilton Harbor. And you essentially start in the southwest corner of the harbor. You run through downtown Hamilton, and then you sort of go up near the QEW. You end up crossing right between Hamilton Harbor and Lake Ontario, and then you go through parts of Burlington and Aldershot back towards the west, and then finally around the end of the harbor there as you come through kind of the 20K mark. And with this race course, it is difficult. And that is mainly because of the elevation profile. Nobody who does or I guess I should say everybody who does the 30K, the 15K, and the 10K are going to experience this elevation because it's all in that last 10 kilometers of the race. So why don't we get into a little bit more detail about each of those kind of 10-kilometer markers?
Oh, now I get why they kind of did that halfway point and the three quarters. They want to get everyone involved in the fun. That's great.
So to kick us off, let's look at that first 10 kilometers of the course. And the good, but also bad part, because you know what's coming, is that this part of the course is mostly flat and pretty fast and great for setting a steady pace. Looking at the course map here, you're going to go from Leona Station. You will be going north on James, and then you'll kind of hook a right and then go towards the bridge. And we're not, of course, going over the Skyway, but you're going to take the lower bridge and you take the lift bridge. So just before you get to the water, that is the 10K mark. So just as you hit the water, that's where you hit 10K. So this point for me, at least for how I am going to be racing this race, you want to go out at a good steady pace, not get too ahead of yourself because you know what is to come. But the nice thing is at this point, it's flat and you haven't hit the water section yet. So hopefully you're still protected from the wind.
Yeah, and I think that's key. You're on really good roads here. You're going to have fast pack, people that you can keep up with, people that you can pass. There's going to be a lot of energy in that first 10 kilometers. So by the time you reach the lake, you should still be feeling very, very good if you've paced it properly. And you hear about negatively splitting races or like evenly splitting races. This race actually promotes a little bit of a positive split because those closing kilometers with all of the elevation will actually be a little bit tougher to keep that pace down. So some people might actually think about having a slightly faster than their goal pace during those first 10 kilometers. Now, the second 10-kilometer section here is actually also pretty reasonable. Near the end of the kind of like 18 to 20-kilometer mark is where those rolling hills begin to appear. But this key bulk part of the race in the middle is where you just want to hold on, conserve energy, try to hold on to that nice pace that you create in that first block. And like Andrew says, this is where you're actually sort of with the elements that might be coming off of Lake Ontario or the harbor, because it's not super protected from the 10th kilometer marker all the way to kind of the 16K, can be risky, especially with the weather and the time of year. So something to think about. Make sure that in the weeks before you're keeping an eye on the weather and making sure that you have the proper gear, because that could be the defining success or breakdown of your race if you don't have, for example, the right shoes for the day. But yeah, near the 18-kilometer mark and coming up to that 20K mark is where you'll start to see some incline. You'll hit that first rolling hill, and it continues from there. But I'll let Tyler dive into that last 10 kilometers.
We'll do last but not least here. So from 21 to 30, the meat of the rolling hills and the peaks and valleys here on the elevation chart. So you get, like Brian was saying, at around the 18, you start getting the taste of a little bit of the rollers, and then you see right before the 20K mark a big peak there. It'd be interesting to see some of these grades percentages on some of these hills, but from 20 to 23 or 24ish, you kind of get a little bit of a, you're still up in the elevation zone. You drop down at a peak, and then you climb that same. It looks like it's close to Valley in Hill. You get a big peak and a valley there. That'll be a tough hill. Obviously, your legs are going to be pretty tired from the beating it took at the past 5 kilometers, but you got to muscle your way through it, and that's where your training will really come into play. You keep going towards the ending here from 26 all the way to, let's say, 28, 29. You got a couple more rollers, and you start heading back down into downtown core. Looks like there's a little bit of a turnaround spot there as well around at the 27K mark, and then you fly it in, get home nice and safe out at the Liuna station, and ready to meet with everybody, and everybody cheering you on. So hopefully too, I'm thinking, what do you guys think? If the wind is at our backs on the last 10K, you might get a little bit of that boost, but obviously with the tough conditions out there in the hills, it might be tough.
Yeah, it could be. I do remember, because the dominant winds are generally from the west. When I ran this race, the toughest part was actually from the 17-kilometer mark through to kind of like the 26-kilometer mark, when most of that wind was in my face, in addition to the tough hills. So that's what I would say, is like that the morning of, really understand where that wind's coming from so you can mentally prepare yourself for that difficult headwind. Because I think, yes, I felt the elevation. It's 230 meters over the whole race, but the wind is what really, I mean, the wind took the wind out of my sails when it came to my pace. So yeah, I think just be mindful of how that race is going to feel as you start to understand the conditions of the day.
Yeah, and that's the key point right there. It's right on the day, right? You could speculate all winter long, but whatever happens on the day, you kind of see where that wind's blowing, and luck of the draw, you might say, is that you might get that headwind or tailwind. So we'll see.
All right, now that we've kind of done that course overview, maybe let's jump into some race day and pre-race day logistics to make sure that you're well prepared and show up at the start line with everything that you need. You have your race bib and everything like that. So this year, the packet pickup will be at Liuna Station. So everything is kind of centered around that, which is nice. It's kind of one spot that you need to go for every kind of thing that you're doing during the weekend, where you're going to enter from the John Street to the lower parking lot. And for packet pickup, there is parking available at Liuna Station, which is not the case on race day. And those pickup times will be Friday 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And just be aware that if you did not pay for race day pickup, you cannot pick up your race packet day of the race. So if you show up to do it, you won't be able to pick that up. So make sure that you either go on the Friday or Saturday, or reach out to a friend that's going the Friday or Saturday and send them your email confirmation.
Yeah, and key pickup times for the packet pickup Friday is 1 to 6 p.m., and then Saturday it's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, I think we'll probably have somebody from the Boys in Motion squad going out one of those days. So if you do need somebody to pick up your pack, we can do so, and then we would meet you the morning of the race to make sure that's delivered to you. Now, one key tip for parking, we mentioned there's no parking at Leuna Station on race day. Now, if you're not somebody who runs a lot, the key for parking during an event like this is one, park a decent distance away from the finish and start line, and two, don't park inside the race course. This is a full loop. Make sure that your car is outside of that loop so that you can get in and out whenever you want to, and you're not victim to kind of the barricades that come up with the race.
I'd have to check the exact Go Train schedules, but West Harbor Go, if you're coming from Lakeshore West, West Harbor Go is right across from Leuna Station. So depending on the schedules, that might be a good option. Although on the Sunday, I'm not sure if it would get you there too late. I'd have to double check that time. So maybe closer to the race day, we'll have to do an update. But also Hamilton Go is also just up the street on James. So public transit to get there is also potentially a good idea depending on where you're coming from.
Yeah. Now, for the 10 and 15K runners, we mentioned this during kind of the course overview, but your meeting point is not right at the start line. It's actually at Leuna Station. And there are shuttle buses that will ship you to your start line. And those, I think they leave at 8:30 a.m., if I'm not mistaken. And that way you kind of meet at Leuna Station, and then they will ship you to your starting blocks.
And the nice thing is that those buses, when they drive you there, they'll be staying there so that you can stay warm. But unfortunately, that won't be the case for Leuna Station the morning of to keep you warm. So us 30K runners, we just got a jog in spot.
You all,
No mercy.
you got to do those throwaway pants and shirt, like the classic.
Yeah, it's always worth, yeah, especially for a race like this, if it's very cold, either go to a thrift store, pick out something that you don't mind, using once, or if you're planning on or like sending something to the thrift store, instead just bring it to the race start line and you can chuck it. And usually, I don't know if this is the case for this race specifically, but usually there are bins and there's an effort to collect and then donate all of those items to charities that need that.
Exactly. And I must say, shout out to Runnerman Andy. I've witnessed a race weekend logistics with him, and it was very seamless. So getting some tips and tricks from the man himself is, I think, very stress relieving for I know for me and probably for a lot of people listening. So that race weekend was very seamless and went out without an issue. So I think we're in a good spot for race day.
I'm glad that you considered us jumping over a metal fence to start a race flawless. I think everything up until that point was flawless, but that was not our finest moment.
That's considered beginning of the race. I think leading up, you were pretty smooth. I know I'm kind of a wild card when it gets to those moments, but yeah, it was pretty smooth.
I love it. It's just like some hurdle warm ups. So, okay, you've run the race. Now, what do you do? So, Boys in Motion will probably be planning something, but we still wanted to give you a couple good spots in Hamilton or nearby for some post race hangouts, some rehydration maybe, and carbon up your body after the big dispense in energy. So, a few really great places that you can go. Number one, some of the breweries around town. I think the highest on my list, and I think where I went after around the bay the time I went was Collective Arts Brewing. You probably recognize it if you're in Ontario or maybe even anywhere in Canada. It's those cans with all the art on it. They've basically got anything under the sun that you might want out of a brewery. What else is there?
Yeah, Hamilton is a great craft brewery city, and a couple others. Merritt is also super close by. That's another good one. and a little further out, but actually my favorite in Hamilton. And they actually had a pop up location in my old neighborhood in Parkdale, and it closed kind of during COVID, but that's Fairweather. That's another super good brewery that if you're trying to do something a little different, because I know a lot of people are kind of used to collective arts at this point, if you're wanting an extra little treat, Fairweather's another good option.
That's a good call. Also, want to mention some cafes that are nearby in case some people are not feeling the brewery and they're still kind of, I don't know how you could still be waking up after that race, but if you're looking for some coffee and some pastries, there's Steeltown Garage, which is really close to the start and finish line there. So that's a quick and easy carb load and caffeine dump if you're feeling the need to re up. And there's Synonym, which is another good cafe nearby that downtown area. There's just so many options, but we're just trying to give some good ones out there. What are you guys have any other things in mind, restaurants or cafe wise?
Well, a cafe on my list is Smalls Cafe and or Smalls Coffee. Very highly rated, also pretty close to the start line. And yeah, it's a place that I really enjoy, and it might even be we're talking about after I know, but who knows? Might need a little espresso shot at the start line as well.
Good call.
Yeah, the thing is the few that we've mentioned, Synonym, Smalls, and Steeltown Garage, they're all very close to the start line. So who knows? I might not be taking a beta fuel gel before. I might just take a standard cis shot and just call it a day because they're within short warm up distance. A couple others that are personal favorites, a little further out, but depending where you're going for food after, are Duran Coffee and Finn Coffee Bar, both super good. Have good pastries, good coffee, just everything you want after a race.
So, coffee and beer is one thing, but food is another requirement post race. So, a few shout outs to mention. First off is the Mule for their fantastic tacos. And then if you're in the mood for pizza, who can say no to some nice Detroit style pizza post race? That's the perfect recovery at My Pie.
I absolutely love My Pie. Their pizza is so good. It's decently close, and also an added benefit is Mischievous is celiac, so doesn't eat any gluten, and they have a gluten-free option. So they kind of cater to gluten-free. They have their pizzas with meat, but then also great vegetarian pizzas. So it's kind of a best of all the worlds. I'm just going to throw one more into the ring. Being a vegetarian, there is Planted on Lock. It's one of my favorite restaurants in Hamilton. They do great food, all pretty clean and healthy, which is nice for after a race. But then they also have great pastries. So that's always a nice treat from there.
Yeah. Now, post race, if you do have a little bit more energy and you're looking for some other things to do well in Hamilton and it's not a place you visit too much, of course, you can visit the Niagara region, Niagara on the Lake, or even near Vineland for some wineries if you have the time for that. Niagara Falls is about 40 minutes away. You can go see the falls. And in addition, there's a nice little small town with a great downtown strip called Dundas, which is maybe 15 minutes away from the start line, which yeah is a great place to walk around. And there's a lot of conservation areas as well. So those are a few options of things to explore. I don't know if you guys have any recommendations around the Hamilton Bowl of where people could visit for some more activities.
Nothing much for me, I guess. I think you guys hit a lot of them off. I was just gonna say the velodrome, but I don't think people will want to hit the bike after that.
Yeah, I was gonna joke like you might just go for another run. Who knows?
That's the thing is Hamilton is great for like hikes, conservation areas. There's a lot of nice active things, but I don't necessarily know if me or anyone else is going to be wanting to do too much of that. So I think just focusing on getting that food in, some drinks, and yeah, like the Jordan area for some nice wine and cheese could also be a wonderful day. So
Yeah, so that covers kind of what you can do post race, but in that closing in on the race, there are a few tips that we just want to mention just to kind of get you prepped up for race day. Number one, from my point of view, is actually a little bit further out than that taper. Is incorporating hills. I just want to drill that down one more time. We've talked about it on the pod already, but this last 10 kilometers is going to be really, really difficult if you're not chasing elevation as you get some mileage towards the race. So prioritize that hill around the corner from you. Even driving to do a workout with some hills is key. It'll just get your legs a little bit used to that, so it's not a shock to the system when you're staring at a 50-meter climb at the 26th kilometer of the race.
You guys are spooking me with this hill at the last 10K, and I've seen it for myself, this elevation profile. I'm very spooked, so I will for sure be incorporating hills. Shout out to John in Ottawa. We've been already talking about it. We are starting to sprinkle in and actually search for hills on our long runs instead of the opposite. You're always looking for the flattest course on any type of run, or trying to avoid those hills, but we actually have been scoping them out and trying to snipe them actually. So all in prep for this nice event. So
My tip is that, and I mean everyone here, if you've listened before, you know my opinion of the treadmill. And if you're the first time listener, I hate the treadmill. I think it should be illegal. But if the treadmill is what's getting you through training this winter for around the bay, I would say try to focus at least one run a week outside in bad conditions, because this race is potentially not going to be, it could potentially be very cold, very windy, which are extra pieces to the puzzle of putting together a good race performance at around the bay. So I would say do prioritize outdoor training in not ideal conditions, because it will help you on race day for this specific race.
Yeah, and you always feel it after a snowy or slushy run out on the roads. The tendons and ligaments in your feet are screaming because it's just a different kind of stabilization. It requires something different from your body. So 100% reinforcing that. Like, get some mileage outside, chase some bad weather, and chase some hills. So tapering into that prep, or I guess into the race in those last few weeks, is key. Sort of decreasing that volume just to actually maintain that fitness and get some recovery in is very, very important. But one thing that I noticed for myself during the marathon block that I did is, in order to stay sharp, continue to incorporate strides or a little bit of speed here and there. It doesn't need to be anything excessive, and especially in that last week, doing a kilometer at like something near goal pace is really helpful to avoid feeling sluggish, because the last thing you want to do is go into race day and your legs have kind of checked out because they're not used to that same sort of work.
yeah, I've seen. I'm just sorting out my training plan here, and I've seen a lot of those stride options on a lot of those shorter runs, just to, like you said, stay sharp, not tire your legs out too much. No major tempo or speed work for long periods of time, but just staying sharp with those strides, I think, is really important. And keeping up with sleep, keeping up with your hydration, always have those electrolytes on you, salt it up, do everything you can to just stay hydrated and stay healthy to get into the race.
And last but certainly not least, because this I think is the most important leading up, is to prioritize your sleep, hydration, and nutrition leading up to race day. We like to say that the day before the race is the most important sleep, because a lot of times you have those pre-race jitters. So the night of, sometimes it is hard to sleep. So make sure you prioritize the night before the race, 2 nights before the race, that sleep, to get a very good sleep. And then for the 30K runners, you do want to be doing a nice carb load. So make sure a day or two before you are getting in a heck of a lot of carbs, whatever works for you. Make sure you figure that out before the carb load, which carbs work for you for a long run, and just be eating lots of it leading up to the race day.
Music to my ears.
Yeah, I can't wait to see some people running around Font Hood with a baguette in each arm or something like that. It's too nice. But yeah, the carb load, it's a privilege. Eat your pastas, eat whatever you like, some oatmeal. But yeah, getting those carbs in will make sure that you've got enough energy to keep yourself speedy to the finish line. So, sorry, Tyler, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the bakery in Welland will be hustling the couple days leading up to that race. Everyone's gonna be chasing those those carbs. So I'm excited.
Oh, for sure. So moving on to chat time, and this is sort of closely related to around the bay, is I actually really, really enjoy a non-standard distance like the 30K rather than the marathon and half marathon where everybody kind of recognizes what those prestigious or like kind of like intermediate time goals would be. Whereas for the 30K, it's sort of this middle distance between the two where it's not like you're necessarily going for a certain time threshold that will be recognized by other people. So you can kind of race your own race a little bit more, which is appealing to me. I like it. It kind of has that like trail run kind of essence to it.
That's a hot take. I'm gonna take that as a hot take. I'm totally opposite. I hate it. I hate everything about it.
You just want to be able to, put it on your resume. I ran I don't know what it would be, 135 half.
Exactly. The what 30K? I have no idea. I saw this note in the show notes here. Goal sets. I have no idea. I don't know what to base myself off of. I am a lost puppy.
So this note actually, which I left, was because last week was a goal setting episode. I'd like just 1 week since then to hear about any changes that you made for your goals. So Tyler, you're in the hot seat first. You set your goal or some of your goals as PRing your Ironman, PRing your marathon, doing lots of racing. So what have you been doing to strive towards those goals this week?
So I have been striving towards some of those goals. I have, I'm of course, I have joined the Around the Bay crew and doing the 30K. So that's race number one. I have also signed up for another race first weekend of May. So that's going towards my race goals right there is signing up for more races. And actually I have a tab open right here for the Rose City Triathlon. So I'm about to sign up for another one. So
I think there's going to be some listeners excited to hear that you're at the Rose City Tri. That's pretty cool. If you do end up pulling the trigger on that, I think you owe some messages to let people know that you'll be there.
that's the main reason is, hometown squad. I think I'll have a pretty good cheering crowd and hopefully some competitors out there. So should be a fun day and especially at an area that I'm very familiar with. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Shout out to Jacob. I'm interested to see if that little speed demon can catch you at the line.
Well, that's what I'm spooked about. I don't want to break too many eggs here and not say something too early. I want to keep him on the edge of his seat here.
How about you, Brian? How you're busy with a move, so there might not be too much pushing forward on those goals, but any specific changes or anything that you've been thinking about since you've set those goals and how you're going to reach them?
Yeah, so I'm the big goal that I set was that 10,000 kilometers of training. Turns out that's a lot. I'm not regretting, but I'm like kind of the realization of the magnitude of that amount of mileage is setting in. I'm trying to hit this week my actual planned mileage on just running, and so that'll be about 50 some kilometers, and it's been a really good week for that. And cycling, I think it's going to shift a little bit from racing focus to volume and like just like endurance focus a little bit more in these coming months, which should help because a lot of the stuff I've been doing on the bike has been high intensity. But other than that, it's been going well. The one reason that I was a little hesitant about adding this to the podcast show notes was because of those 100 days of functional fitness training sessions. Last podcast, I said that I would start recording those on Strava. It's not that I haven't been recording them, or it's not that I haven't been just recording them. I haven't been doing them at all. So I hope my physio's not listening because the move has just kind of thrown that askew, and all of the tools and things that I use during that routine are in a box somewhere. I hope to get to it. Sprinkling in little physio stuff here and there, but that functional fitness is the wagon that I've fallen off of.
And you, Andy?
Well, goal number one, faster marathon. And since that episode, have been sick, no running. So people might think I'm a dead man because I normally post quite a bit on Strava and I haven't been posting. I'm on the ups now, and hopefully by the time this gets released, I'm back to running. Goal number two, run with more people. Right after that was set, I messaged Jacob and I was like, all right, we're going to start running once a week. We set it all up, then got sick. So haven't done that either. But the wheels are in motion for that. And then the third, mentoring other runners or newbie runners. And my runner man Andy's running protege Ian, his consistency has been on point. His set Friday, Sunday runs, there hasn't been a missed workout. So the one that doesn't actually involve me all that much, other than once in a while check-ins and giving him kudos, is gone flawless. So yeah.
Well,
That's nice.
that's good news.
Yeah, very good news. And I'm seeing Ian's runs. I'm impressed. He's aiming for heart rate. He's doing it right. So yeah, big kudos to you, Ian.
Oh yeah, one big previous time he was training for the BIM 5K, no heart rate. A recent purchase, kind of since he started this block, was a heart rate monitor. So is definitely trying to be more true to that and not just blast out of the gate.
That's wonderful. I just want to thank everybody for sticking around. Thanks for tuning in to the episode of the Boys in Motion podcast. We hope this guide gets you ready and excited for the race day at Around the Bay. We're excited to see you at the start line.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and join our Strava club for more great content. And we'll definitely be dropping some more details about our after Around the Bay plans, most likely on Instagram. So check there. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for future episodes.
And just another, I guess, quick tip there to add to Andrew's point. YouTube, this episode will be very helpful because we will pull up the race overview and the elevation profile and might give you a little bit more of some visual cues for the race and the race overview. So just wanted to finish off with, we're not professionals, we're just your friends. We're not coaches or race directors, but we are doing some research and we're just trying to help out with a little bit of a course overview for Around the Bay. All advice is based on our experiences and adapt to what is best for you at the end of the day.
Yeah, super. So best of luck with your training. Have fun on race day, and we'll catch you next time on the Boys in Motion.